everybody. Welcome back to A Worm's Eye View. As always, I'm Thatcher, and joining me is...
Tim Hoopty Hoop.
And so today's episode is 90s drama that we randomized last episode, and we landed on Forrest Gump. I think it's safe to say we both enjoy this movie.
I would say I more than enjoy it.
Obviously, I was not a fan of Into the Wild. If you've heard like the first 30 seconds, but Tim really enjoyed the format of Into the Wild because it was really difficult to take notes on because it bounced around so much. So despite that being my least favorite episode and movie to date, Tim thought it came out really well as far as the flow of it. So he said, hey, can we try for this episode not to take notes on the movie and just have a conversation about the movie, try to go along chronologically. And it was a good episode, I think, for us to try this out because we both know this movie really well. So we're going to try this. This is without notes. This is just, we did brush up on a little bit of trivia beforehand, but that's about it. Other than that, Tim and I are just going to have a conversation, hopefully in chronological order. So please, as always, let us know what you thought of the episode, but the new format as well, because if you like it, we'll try our best to do it with every movie going forward.
Yeah, I think it just makes more sense than going scene by scene. It seemed too regimented for me. It didn't really free flow, and that's where I thought it was easier listening to that episode, even though the content was good because we're funny as shit, but it just didn't. Yeah, a tough movie to do it on, but I think that's what made that episode good is the way that it flowed.
Yeah, and then for those of you who don't follow us on Facebook, since we recorded and posted Into the Wild, the military went and removed the bus because so many people were going out to it and then either getting hurt or lost, and it was just taking up too many resources. And Magic Hat Brewing Company announced that they were closing. So if you remember, I gave them a negative review.
You sure did.
And then,
and then they closed doors.
Yeah, and then Tim and I just talking about the bus was enough for the government to be like, you know what, that's enough. We got to do this. So we are officially social media influencers.
Well, either that or we're governmental influencers. Okay, some movie information here. This is 1994, directed by Robert Zemeckis, and he's got an okay resume, I'd say. He seems to like Tom Hanks quite a bit because he showed up in several of his movies. Running through a few, you got Romancing the Stone. That was a good 80s movie. Back to the Future, Castaway, Beowulf, Polar Express, and Flight. So I think Tom Hanks is in 4 of the 5 of those or whatever, something like that.
I do love Tom Hanks, though.
Yeah, and this is my absolute favorite acting by him. This movie, does an amazing job.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's the lead in this and Saving Private Ryan, but he was Captain Miller in Saving Private Ryan, especially when he gives that speech about how he's just a high school teacher back home, or it was elementary, but he coaches the baseball team, and he's like, I just want to get home to my wife, and if that's this is how I get to go home to her, then that's why, it was just so motivational and inspirational. It was really cool. But yeah, this, like I said, is probably a coin flip between that role and this role.
Yeah, absolutely. So box office gross, what do you think?
Oh, God. I think I read something that it surpassed $250 million in like 30 something days. So,
yep.
And then it was re-released on its 20th anniversary or 10th anniversary, something like that, in IMAX. So we got to be pushing 430 million is my guess.
Really? No, this movie grossed $657 million.
And is that box office?
It
doesn't specify.
Yeah, it doesn't specify, but that is an insane amount of money.
Yeah.
Insane. Wow. I can't even fathom that. So, a synopsis. Slow-witted Forrest Gump has never thought of himself as disadvantaged, and thanks to his supportive mother, he leads anything but a restricted life, whether dominating on the gridiron as a college football star, fighting in Vietnam, or captaining a shrimp boat. Forrest inspires people with his childlike optimism. But one person Forrest cares about most may be the most difficult to save: his childhood love, the sweet but troubled Jenny.
Nice. I think that sums it up pretty well.
Yeah, and I have a few more choice words for Jenny, but we'll get to that.
Yes.
So, you have any memories from the first time you watched this movie?
No, I can't remember the first time I watched it. So it came out in '94, so that would have made me 7 or 8. I think I caught pieces of it when my sisters were watching it at home or something like that. And obviously, it was a little bit too mature for me. Like, I didn't get a lot of the references, or I didn't care about the relationships between the characters. But I do have a memorable viewing of it, which this is the second movie Heather and I have ever watched as a couple.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the first was not as good. It was the Robin Hood remake by Russell Crowe.
Oh, that is Into the Wild.
Yeah, right. But yeah, so this is the second movie we ever watched, and she said I was Forrest Gump when we first started dating, and I was like, oh, because I'm stupid. No, she's like, yo, you're cute and sweet, and I'm like, well, you could have picked somebody else who fits that description.
Boy, did you pull a veil over her eyes?
Yeah, right.
I don't really remember when and where I saw it. I just know that I remembered this watching is probably, I don't know, I'd say I'm up over 10 times watching this movie. This time I actually didn't cry. I know that most of the times that I watch this movie, I've cried because there's one particular part that just gets me every time.
Sure. I think I know what it is, but we'll get to that when we get to it.
So, words on the box. Let's take a guess. What are some quotes? No, they're not quotes.
No, it's both. Both. That's why this would be confusing, because I knew life is like a box of chocolates was going to be a tagline.
Yep. Yeah, and it's absolutely a tagline. Yeah, and that was on the original. No, it was on the when this came originally. This came out when VHS was around. Then DVD spawned its head, and they put "Life is like a box of chocolates" on the DVD. But the original VHS simply said the world will never be the same once you've seen it through the eyes of Forrest Gump. I think that's true.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It seems wrong to really give a drink pairing to this movie, and I'm just going off the cuff because I didn't even write anything down, that it contains alcohol, because I just attribute Forrest Gump to pure innocence. So in that case, I would say you need to have a Shirley Temple or a Roy Rogers with this movie.
Or a Dr. Pepper.
Damn it. I should have said Dr. Pepper and rum.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, I was going more the Southern route because he's from Greenbow, Alabama. So I was thinking like Southern Comfort. I'm drinking an old fashioned right now, but yeah, Southern Comfort or something with peaches in it. I know Georgia's for the peaches, not Alabama, but or some sweet tea and something.
There you go.
Sweet
tea and bourbon, yeah.
Yeah, something. This movie is very Southern, and today is a good day to record it because it feels like the surface of the sun. It's 98 degrees and humid here in nice New Hampshire, so it feels like I'm like, man, I need to go down to the creek or the bayou and cool off, maybe shoot me some gator. But instead, it's just like I go to get the mail and I like stick to the pavement and like melting. But yeah, that's all I was thinking. It was something Southern. But I like the way you went, where it was more character driven.
I think the sweet tea and bourbon is a perfect pairing, and I've had one of those down south. So, okay, so I say we break this movie up, and it does a fine job versus our last review, Into the Wild. This does a really good job of bouncing around throughout Forrest Gump's entire life. It does it in a manner that makes sense. The funny thing is this movie is basically, if you were to tell somebody, yeah, this movie is told from a dim-witted fellow who's sitting on a park bench in Savannah, Georgia. Most of the movie is told from that position, and it truly is. It's only once he meets Jenny towards the end of the movie that it doesn't flow back and forth from that bench. We could talk about Gump growing up. Would be like section 1 of this review.
Sure, his child. Yeah. So the movie opens like following a feather or something like that, and I'm going completely off memory. I did not rewatch this movie for this episode.
You didn't? Really?
I didn't, because I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go off of memory to prove like this is a solid story structure. Because that's the thing. I'm not so dim-witted as to be like completely lost when you jump through space or time, right? But
correct.
This movie does it logically. Like, it's not like, wait a minute, there was an old man sitting on the bench. Who the hell is this guy? where Into the Wild just wasn't structured to the point where you could follow it. So yeah, it starts with him sitting on a bench, talking to somebody, and the person is not paying attention whatsoever. They're just reading a magazine. And then, yes, it cuts to Forrest Gump as a child. Before we get into anything, though, they never expressly say it, and maybe it's not important, but what do you think Forrest's condition is? Oh, I think he's autistic. But the movie, the only thing they really do to talk about his condition is he has a low IQ, right? Like, he's in the low 80s, high 70s, something like that. Yes. And the doctor's explaining to Forrest's mom that, you know, like mental retardation is 60 and lower. So Forrest is like just over that threshold. But he's by no means dumb. I think the only thing he lacks is social intelligence. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of Sheldon Cooper, other than being an asshole, where he looks at human situations and doesn't comprehend them. Like,
just make sure you say who Sheldon Cooper is.
Oh, I'm sorry, from The Big Bang Theory. Yeah, so he observes human interaction and is confused by it, as though he's an alien that's landed on this planet. Like, he possesses intelligence. He just minus emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
So that's why I was always under the impression that he was probably some sort of autistic. Like, he reminded me a lot of, I went to high school with a kid who had Asperger's, and he had like zero emotional intelligence. But if you got him onto a topic, he knew, he was a genius and could run circles around you. You know what I mean? Yeah. It was just like, but he wasn't dumb by any stretch. And I don't think Forrest is dumb either. Do you think that's accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think throughout the movie, he is socially he doesn't fit the bill as your common Joe. What I think of him as is every village has their idiot. You know what I mean? I think he's just, and I mean, that's a very vulgar way of putting it, but he seems to be just slow to me. Yeah. And his mindset is very, and this could be the upbringing, because his mother's very protective of him, but I just found him slow. But I really appreciated the fact that I was able to see the rest of the world through his interpretation of it, because I think that makes you that can make you think things a different way and maybe be a better person, because I really felt like a shitbag when I saw how nice this dude is.
Sure. And that's the thing, is I think that's like his most endearing quality, is like, I'm not going to spoil anything, but he encounters racism, sexism, global war. I was going to say global policy, and he encounters it and interprets it in such an innocent way. That's probably
it's like a child. It's like a child approaching these situations.
Exactly. He's just looking at it completely objective, completely unbiased, and just providing his interpretation. And we get to kind of see that, and it kind of makes you reflect on yourself and the biases that you bring to these particular situations. Not even racial, sexual, or anything like that, but like for instance, like the Vietnam stuff. Like, I hate hippies. You know what I mean? And I know I bring that bias to the table, but here's Forrest, who like served and doesn't bring that to the table. But that's all I want to say about that. That's all I want to say about that. So yeah, it starts off as Forrest as a kiddo.
Yeah, and he's got braces on his legs. What's
that? What's that? What condition? Did he have like polio? Like
no, because I don't think you can like get away from polio. I just think his back, from the doctor's saying his legs are fine, they're strong. His back's crooked as a politician's. So so it's something wrong with his back. So they brace his legs to try and get his back in alignment or something. I don't know, but so he's got these braces on his legs, and you can imagine a kid. I would guess if he's in Vietnam in his 20s, we're talking what, 50s?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
50s or 60s.
Yeah, he was probably born early, somewhere in the 40s, but he probably grew up in the 50s, 60s.
So, you got this kid with braces on his legs in a small town down south. And of course, people look at him and all that shit. And moms always tell him, you're the same as everybody else. You know, she's protecting him, so to speak. This is the relationship they have throughout life. Well, mostly his childhood. There's, you know, bits of him getting on the school bus and he won't get on. He's like, well, mom says I'm not supposed to take a ride from strangers. And she's like, this is the bus to school. And he's like, well, I'm Forrest Gump. And she finds him humorous, says, I'm Emily Harris. And he's like, well, we ain't strangers no more. And he gets on the bus. And then all the kids won't let him sit down. And then he hears this angel voice, as they think he calls it. And it's Jenny, the aim of his heart for the rest of the movie. And he sits down and they go together like peas and carrots.
Yeah, that's right. And, you know, I obviously never experienced anything like this in my childhood. But if I did have to, you know, if I did talk slow like that and I had to wear braces or leg braces or anything like that, I feel like that's enough just to make you an outcast as a child. So it was relatable, even though I never had that personal experience. Like,
no, but I'm sure you saw a kid in school, right? You know?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, so that's the life Forrest is leading as a young kid, you know, being bullied. And does he run around and shoot people up? No, he just takes it, but he takes it and he's still a very nice dude about it. Nice kid. He doesn't lash out. And I think there's a scene where they're throwing rocks at him and Jenny says, you know, run, Forrest, run. And as he starts to run away from these kids on their bikes, his braces break off. And he's able to like run like normally and walk normally. And the kid takes off like a bat out of hell.
Yeah, he's got like cheetah speed the second he pop off.
Yeah.
So with the Run, Forrest, Run, you just said, this just reminded me. This movie, I think, is in close competition with Top Gun for being super quotable.
Oh, God, yeah, absolutely. And we totally didn't mention that towards the beginning.
No, like it didn't even occur to me until you were like, run, Forrest. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, there's so many lines in this movie that I know I quote. Like anytime I give anybody ice cream, I go, Lieutenant Dan, ice cream.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
That's the only thing I wanted to say is for those of you listening, yeah, you're probably familiar with this movie because who hasn't seen this? But yeah, just pay attention to how quotable this movie is.
Yeah, absolutely huge. Only two other things I can really think of that are huge from his childhood. It's obvious and apparent. He stops at Jenny's house one day after he's running as still a little kid. It's obvious that Jenny has a pedophile for a father.
Yeah, what a shithole of a house too.
Yeah, and it's go ahead.
A dilapidated shack, like surrounded by corn, but yeah, and again, like it paints the picture that Jenny's dad molests her because Forrest narrates and he goes, and Jenny's dad loves her so much, he's always hugging and kissing and touching her, and we immediately know that that's molestation, but he, as somebody who has no social intelligence, just views it as like, wow, like my mom loves me, but Jenny's dad really loves her, you know?
It's disheartening. And so there's that bit. He shows up at the house and she's like picking at flowers and she's like, shh, quiet, you're going to wake my dad. And the dad wakes up and chases both of them out into the fields. And I think I wanted to mention this because this is a key part that comes, you know, there's a callback later in the movie. And they drop to their knees. And she's like, Forrest, pray with me. And she's like, dear God, make me into a bird so I can fly far, far away from here. And that's pretty significant to mention for the end of the movie. But there's also a visitor, the Forrest's mom has a huge house, which was built for the movie. That's not a real house.
That's too bad.
It is because it's a gorgeous place, and it's just like
a plantation, not like a slavery plantation, so to speak, but just like
it was at one point, I'm sure.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, I don't know what kind of trees those are that grow.
Magnolia.
Thank you. But yeah, I just love those pictures of like a long driveway with those hanging over it. And then you go to a wraparound porch, like this beautiful house. That's just
have you ever been down south?
I haven't. The only south I've been to is North Carolina.
Boston? I thought you were going to say Boston.
No. North Carolina and Florida. So
all right, yeah. So you've been further south, but it's different.
But Florida is very different than Georgia, Alabama. You know,
we'll go. We'll hop on. We'll get one of them planes and we'll hop down there. Both couples. We'll hop down there and we'll go to Charleston. And I'll show you around.
We'll get one of those seaplanes and we'll beat Southwest down there.
So they have this, like we were saying, the mom has a big plantation, and it's obvious the dad's not around because you never introduced to a father. Although the mom is so interested in making sure that Forrest gets a regular education and that Forrest feels like a regular boy, that she sleeps with the principal because she wants him to go to regular school because he's telling her, hey, your kid's too dumb to come to this school. So that part's pretty funny.
Yeah, and that shot was based on a Norman Rockwell painting, The Girl with the Black Eye. I'm sure you've seen it, her sitting outside the principal's office for fighting. So yeah, it's got Forrest sitting on a bench outside the office, and the door is open, and the conversation's taking place between them. But yeah, so Forrest doesn't meet the minimum requirements to go to regular school. He has to go to a special school because of his IQ level, but Mama has something to say about that.
Yeah, so she sleeps with him to get him to make sure that Forrest goes to regular school. Yeah. Elvis shows up at their house too. That's in his childhood.
That's right. But hang on, before you move on to that.
No. You about to say, is that how I got into 8th grade? My mom slept with the principal. Is that what you're about to say?
No, but that's a good burn. I like when you burn yourself. No, all I was going to say is, again, Forrest not understanding what's going on. Though, to be fair, I wouldn't have understood what was going on at that age either. Yeah, this gentleman comes over to their plantation, and Forrest hears some weird noises coming from the bedroom, and he's sitting out on the porch, and the gentleman comes out and says, "Oh, your mama love you very much, boy." And Forrest just turns and looks at him and goes, and the guy takes off all embarrassed. So I couldn't quite tell, though, if that was supposed to be him imitating springs squeaking, or if it was that's the noises that gentleman made mid-coitus.
That's his. Tell. It's his O face.
And obviously that flew over my head as a child. So when I saw the movie again as a teenager or an adult, I enjoyed it that much more because I was like, I get it. Like I knew they weren't just having a convincing talk behind closed doors, but I wasn't sure. I'm like, maybe she bribed him or something like that. But no, now I know.
Oh, your innocence is spoiled. Yeah, so the mom rents out, since the dad's gone, the mom rents out rooms in the plantation to kind of make ends meet. And Forrest is narrating, and Elvis happens to be one of the visitors. He's like, people show up with their suitcases and hat cases, and gentleman had himself a guitar case. And so the scene is pretty much, he's in Elvis's room, and Elvis is practicing his music, and he still has his braces on his legs. So all he can do is like a little shimmy with his legs, which is what Elvis does on TV. So it's just portraying that Forrest is the reason why the girls drooled over Elvis. So.
Yeah, how he got his signature dance.
And then lastly, I think as a kid, the kids torment him all the way up into high school, and it shows him and Jenny as older kids, high school, going down his driveway, and dudes are chasing him now in their truck instead of their bikes. And he runs down the football field of the high school or the college, and the coach is like, and he's bombing by everybody. Forrest can run. And by the way, Tom Hanks hates to run, so his younger brother Jim Hanks filled in for him in those spots where you see Forrest running like a bat out of hell.
Yeah.
So the coach is like, "Oh, who's that kid?" And then so it ends up that they grab Forrest Gump for the Alabama State University. I'd say now we go into kind of like the college time frame of his life.
Yep. And so he got a full scholarship for football. And
football.
He's like, and can you believe that? I even got to go to college.
Yeah.
He's
college. So innocent.
He is, and college was definitely a privilege back then too. It was like a big deal if you went to college, where now it's a college
degree. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, college degree now is unfortunately like the equivalent of a high school diploma because it's becoming more and more accessible. But I truly believe that somebody of that intellect, that was outside of the realm of possibilities in the 60s.
Sure.
Other than Mama, I don't know what Mama was doing, but that is quite the property she has. And on a single income, she's been doing something. Maybe she's growing that marijuana cigarettes.
Maybe,
but yeah,
more than likely it's Cotton Farm probably.
Right, or not health insurance, life insurance from dad dying or something like that. But yeah, they appear to be not in financial distress. But,
oh gosh, no.
But Forrest, I think, would have had trouble getting into a college
for sure.
where the ride exists now. All you gotta do is spell your name right, and you get in that school. Oh, I think we just lost them as a sponsor.
Yeah, we did.
But yeah, so he gets to go to college, and then again, talking about the innocence. I can't remember if this was high school or college, but they said there's a big group of people assembling. Forrest is like, "What's going on?" And
that's college.
Okay, one of the guys goes, yeah, one of the guys goes, "Coons are trying to get into school." He goes, "Coons," and like you see, like he gets upset, and you're like, "Oh man!" Like even though he's special, like he was taught some hate, and he's like, when raccoons try to get in the house, Mama chases him off with a broom, and then like, not raccoons, you idiot, Negroes, you know.
Yeah, he said the N-word. Yeah,
he does. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, we're not gonna say that on this podcast.
No, but again, Forrest is innocent, and he never even thinks that they're talking about racism.
He thinks raccoons,
he thinks it's actual raccoons, and he's got a suggestion for how you take care of that. And other than that, he has a little sexual encounter in college, but I think that's about it.
His sexual encounter is with Jenny. So he goes to her college to just say hi and bring her some chocolates, and she's doing it in a car with some other guy, and Forrest thinks that this guy is attacking her and goes to save her and starts wailing on this dude, and she's like, "Forrest, cut it out, go stand over there." And this scene happens entirely in the pouring rain. Forrest is just waiting in the pouring rain for her, and so the dude takes off because Forrest beats him up, and they wind up in Jenny's room, and she's drying his clothes in her dorm room. And he's wearing a robe, and she's like, "Hey, have you ever been with a girl, Forrest?" And he's like, "Sit next to him in economics class all the time," you know. And, so she takes her bra off. She's down into her bra and panties, but you don't see anything. Mr. Skin was pretty upset watching this again that there's no skin in this movie whatsoever. So she takes her bra off and puts his hand on her boob, and he has he hits his money shot inside the robe or whatever. So that's his sexual experience. And then she leans into him. She's like, "God, I bet that didn't happen in your economics class."
There was a highlight of him in a football game, and of course all they do is just hand Forrest the ball, and he just runs in a straight line. And then after he scores the touchdown, he keeps running straight out the stadium. And they're like, "Where are you?" He
bums right into the band and knocks a few people over and leaves and runs out the stadium.
And doesn't the coach say something like, "Man, he's an idiot, but man, can he run?"
Mm-hmm. And in fact, it even gets to the point where they all have stop signs. So after they give him the ball and he's running and he hits the end zone, even the crowd puts a big stop up. So
that's right. And they win the state championship, right? So they get to meet
correct.
The president.
And there you go. See, you remember it.
Yeah, see, and like
now, who was the president?
Was that Lyndon Johnson?
No, this was Kennedy. He's in the bathroom. Yeah, he had about 13 Dr. Peppers.
That's right. He goes, the part that I think is most significant, he goes, "That's the first time I got to meet the president."
Yeah. And it's like, the second one's even funnier because when he goes, "I got to meet the president again." So it's like, he's like, God, it's like it's a hindrance to his life. So those are the other big spots, I think, in the college days. And then the day of graduation, Mom's all excited. It's obvious. Mom's played by Sally Field, which is a fantastic actress. Yep. They show her as a little bit older. An army recruiter comes strutting up to this new grad. "Have you given any thought to your future?" And he's like, "Thought?" Which is kind of mean. I think they did that bit, but it's funny. And so, boom, right after that, we start, guess what? Forrest Gump's in the military.
Yeah. And this, for me, is probably the highlight of the movie. It's the part I enjoy the most. It's got awesome music. It's edited well. It's funny. You really meet two of like your favorite sidekicks of him going forward. So Forrest has kind of a very similar experience to elementary school where he gets on the bus.
Well, he introduces himself. So he goes to do the Emily Harris, like he's going to school. He's like, my name's Forrest. He goes, I don't care who you are, pussballs. Get on the bus.
No, that is great. And he just like looks at him like,
he's like,
and then all of the guys do the same thing, like seats taken. So he has to sit down with like the other quote unquote special person. Now I know the story behind your recruitment, but a little bit. Well, I can't say your recruitment. I was about to ask, did you get on a bus to go to the Air Force? But I know that answer. So let me share this story. Tim joined the Air Force, and his first time being on a plane was flying down to basic training. He since does not like aviation, but I think for a reason, I think I can turn you around, though. I think if you get to fly a small aircraft,
don't ever say that to me again. Don't ever say that to me again.
What? That I can turn you around?
Yeah, don't ever say that to me.
Oh, you made that dirty. That wasn't dirty. But I think I can. Help you get over that if you get to manipulate the controls of an aircraft. But yeah, so Tim told me he doesn't like to fly, and I was like, dude, you joined the Air Force. Like, didn't you expect there to be some planes in it? And he goes, the first time I was ever on a plane was on my way to basic, and I'm like, oh boy. That's like if I joined the Navy knowing that I get seasick. I mean, I guess eventually you get over it because there's only so much you could vomit, but
all right, stop picking on me. I had a little Forrest in me as a teenager.
No, I'm not picking on you. I think that's badass that you went on that adventure like not knowing. You know what I mean? The fact that you're like, hey, I know nothing about aircraft, never been on one, but sign me up, baby. Like you just headed that way. So because I'm guessing it wasn't a flight just full of Air Force recruits. They probably just put you on like Delta, and you were with like at John Q. Public, where
there were a couple. I mean, I went with all the Air Force guys that processed MEPS that day.
Oh, okay.
So drove down to Boston, and they bring you to the government building, and they process you. They feel you nuts and stick a finger up your butt, all that stuff. I'm not paraphrasing.
Uncle Sam turned you around, huh?
Yeah, no, true.
So let me picture this. So this is like what 1995 maybe. So Tim gets on the flight, and he goes to sit down next to one of the other recruits, and they go, seats taken, and Tim goes, no, I got a ticket, and I get to sit right here. It's a sign, Satan. Is that how that went?
Is that your mind works so strangely with how you pick your rips for me? But that's exactly what happened. Okay,
and it wasn't starting out as a rip, but anyway. So he gets on the bus with all the other recruits.
And you meet Bubba.
Yeah, and Bubba is the gentleman who's like, hey, come sit with me. And
you can sit with me if you want to.
And I love Bubba. Other than that lip sticking out, it just drives me insane. I don't know how he does it. Like I can't do it.
I'm doing it right. I'm doing it right
without sticking out my whole job. But these two are kindred spirits because Bubba starts talking about how his family is from a long line of shrimpers and they know everything about shrimp.
I know everything there is to know about the shrimping business.
Yeah, but then it cuts to
you're going to go there, slave plantation.
It's important. It's important. It goes, Bubba's mom, she knew everything there was about preparing shrimp, and her mama knew everything, and her mom, and it's cutting to a montage of women on
black women. Bubba is black.
Yeah. Yes, he is. Yeah, that is important. It cuts to just a montage of people on plantation serving their masters. So Bubba comes from slavery. It's kind of implied anytime you're in the South, I guess, that you go back far enough, you'll find that. But that's who Bubba's ancestors were preparing shrimp for. They weren't at the Boston market. They were on the plantation. But yeah, so these two go to basic, and this is my favorite. Is the drill instructors yelling at Forrest, and what was the first one?
So he yells at him. He goes, Go ahead. Do you remember the first one?
I think I do. He goes, "Why are you here?"
Yep,
and he goes, "To do whatever you say, drill instructor." He goes, "God damn, that is the best answer I've ever heard. You must be a genius." And he's carrying on. And then it gets to they're supposed to be cleaning their rifles.
Absolutely.
They're learning how to break down and clean their rifle. And Gump does it in like 0.2 seconds compared to the rest of the company. And the drill instructor gets in his face and he goes, "Why did you clean that so fast?" He goes, "Because you told me to, sir." He goes, "God damn it, you're gonna make general someday."
Yeah. He goes, "If you wouldn't be a waste of such a fine enlisted man, I'd recommend you for OTS."
Now I'm glad you brought that up. I did not understand that. What's OTS?
Oh, officers training school. So he'd recommend him as an officer, but he's like, it's a waste of an enlisted man.
That's awesome. But yeah,
so it's a dig on all you officers.
That's right. Thank you. So it's a training montage, and then the whole time his friendship with Bubba grows, and Bubba's. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Bubba's what?
Bubba talks about shrimp at nauseum, you would say. He's like, you can have shrimp and potatoes, you can have shrimp stew, you can have shrimp cocktail. He knows 80 different ways to prepare shrimp. And Tim and I work with somebody who reminds us a lot of Bubba. Without being, I know this is insulting, but
Bubba is an endearing character.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Is this gentleman is very nice, would do anything for you.
Oh yeah, he's like the guy that give you a shirt off his back.
I think he would do that, but he moving with a purpose is not in his vocabulary. He moves slow, kind of talks a little slow. He's Southern. He's not dumb, but I would say he's not great with respecting your time. You'll be clearly in a hurry and he'll stop you and you'll be like, "What is it?" And he's like, and he just wants to tell you a story very slowly. And he gets into such detail as Bubba does. So we always joke whenever Tim and I get caught by this individual and have to listen to a story at an inappropriate moment. Not that it's an inappropriate story. It's just a long.
It's just timely, you know.
Yeah. We'll be like shrimp cocktail, shrimp, and we just both immediately know what we're talking about. So, but for Forrest, he's found his match, right?
That's for sure.
Match made in heaven.
And the funniest bit is this whole, from the second that you see Forrest with the drill instructor to the time that they finish basic training, it's just Bubba telling Forrest all the ways you can prepare shrimp, except you hear the drill instructor yelling at them once in a while. So it's like, and then the funny bit is towards the end, you're like shrimp salad, and they're scrubbing tiles with toothbrushes, which is not fun. And they're down there scrubbing, and he's like, shrimp stew, pepper shrimp, garlic shrimp. He stops, he looks up at Forrest, he goes, "That's about it." He ran out of shit to say. Yeah. So that ends basic training. Oh, actually, no, wait. Something significant happens in basic training. Gump's in his bunk, and he's on the top bunk, and the dude next to him goes, "Hey, Gump, take a look at this." And he throws him a porn mag. He goes, "Look at the tits on that one." And Gump opens up the book, and it's a Playboy, and he sees Jenny in her college sweater.
That's right.
Do you remember that? Yeah.
I do. Yeah.
See, Mr. Skin will bring you back.
That's right.
But you don't see anything, but it shows, and Forrest narrates, and he says, "It appears Jenny got some trouble in the college sweater," and she got booted out of school for that picture.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So that happened.
Yeah. Speaking of which, there's no way Jenny would have gone to college.
Well, I mean, I get what you're saying, but if Forrest made it, you can't say Jenny wouldn't have.
But
I know he got a full ride. But so did Jenny, obviously.
Well, there you go. Maybe she slept with the dean. Yeah.
Who knows?
But terrible of us to insinuate, other than knowing her history.
Well, and that's the thing that, and I alluded to earlier. We talked about Jenny when I did the synopsis of the movie, and Jenny, she's been dealt a shitty hand in life. But you know what she does is she takes that hand and she just deals the same hand to Forrest. And that's what drives me fucking crazy about her, is the fact that this woman, and you see the pattern in real life too, even though these are these are fictional characters. You see somebody who's abused continues that pattern. And I think that's what they were trying to show us. Even if somebody as innocent and loving as Forrest is to you, you're still going to treat them. Not that she abuses him, but she does emotionally, I think.
Sure.
He's always saving her. He's always out for her best interest. And she just sees him as this barnacle. That's the best way I can describe it. Jenny's a boat, and he's a barnacle on the side of the boat.
Jenny.
Yeah, we'll get to that too.
Yeah.
But so that's my rant about her. My least favorite character of the movie, because
sure.
You're dealt a shitty hand. I get it, but don't continue that pattern. Be strong and break it. Not that I can speak because I've never been abused, but why you know the way it feels. Why are you going to do that to somebody else?
Yeah, and without therapy, there's no way she could ever come out of that downward spiral. But my whole point is, especially in the 50s, there is no way she's going to college. But
they do it for some reason.
Yeah, just so that they can encounter each other. But that's okay. But yeah, so now they're done with basic and it's off to war. Were you? Well, I don't know if you ever got deployed.
I did.
Were you deployed with the same people you went to basic with?
No,
I didn't think so. I thought they wouldn't do that per se. Because don't they send you to your own special whatever you're going to be ending up doing?
Yeah, think of it in terms of this way. You went to recruit school.
Yep.
And then from recruit school, that would be basic. So now you're going off to your separate places of employment.
Sure.
So I went to this.
That's what I figured it did. But
yeah, and you deploy with the people from that job, from that place.
Right. And but somehow Gump and Bubba are together.
Yeah, which is not typical, I don't think. But it's character continuity, I believe, is the reason why they did it. But
I mean, obviously, it's a movie. We're giving it some artistic license, but
there is. I gotta stop you real quick though.
Sure.
So there's one scene right before him going to Vietnam that I think shows the only shred of maybe it shows a shred of decency from Jenny. He goes down to some strip club where she's playing her guitar, and innocent enough, he's like, oh, her dream came true. She's on stage playing a guitar. Well, she's buck naked. She's in a strip joint. Yeah. So the guys are like throwing their drinks at her because she's singing a song instead of stripping.
Yeah, pelting her with dollar bills. Like, we're not here to hear you sing.
So he grabs her, and she's pissed at him again, and they're on a bridge, and she says, Forrest, do you think I could fly if I jumped off this bridge? And she's like, what do you mean, Jenny? And a truck comes up, and she's like, stay away from me. Stop trying to save me. And he's like, well, bye-bye, Jenny. They're sending me to Vietnam. It's this whole other country. And she says, Forrest, she realizes the peril he's going to mean. She says, if you're ever scared, just run away. Please promise me you'll just run away. He's like, oh, okay. Yeah. So, I mean, that showed a little bit of decency to her, that she did have some feelings for him. So that then he goes over to Vietnam with Bubba.
Yeah.
And they meet who?
Lieutenant Dan.
Lieutenant Dan. And what does Lieutenant Dan say to Bubba when he first meets him?
I can't remember.
So they answer at the same time, and he goes, "You guys related?" And he's like, "No, we are not relations."
Oh yeah.
He's like, "What's wrong with your lip?" And he goes, "My family was born with big gums, sir." And he goes, "Well, you better tuck that in before you get it caught on a tripwire."
Yeah, but that's funny too. Yeah, you bring that point up because here's Forrest, who's white as white, and here's Bubba, who's black as black, and he goes, "Yeah, you guys related?" And they just like look at each other like, "No, sir, no relation." And he's just like, "Wow, I got two winners in my troop here."
Yeah. I didn't even think of it that way.
And then they both say that they're from Alabama, right? And then later on, he says he goes, "All right, you guys from Arkansas, right?"
Yeah, he does. Little Rock's a fine place.
Yeah, which I saw somebody wrote on IMDb was a goof, but I think it's a character piece that he wasn't paying attention. Like he didn't give a shit. Like the first thing he says to them is they salute him. And he says not to salute the officers because it makes you a target for snipers.
Yep.
Yeah. And then it has them going on patrol and stuff. and it plays,
going through a bunch of things.
Yeah, and it plays Buffalo Springfield's For What It's Worth, I recall, which is just a great song. It's overused for Vietnam, but I think they did it the best. This movie, it was
probably
so appropriate. And then of course Forrest, not really understanding the situation he's in, he's like, we would go on these long walks, and we were always looking for some guy named Charlie. No one could ever seem to find him, because Charlie was obviously a slang for the Viet Cong that was used by our troops. So, and then he introduces
some of the people. He narrates when they're on patrol. He introduces some of the people in his unit. He's like, some of the best boys served in this war. You had Cleveland. He was from Chicago. And then he goes, you got Tex. Well, I don't remember where Tex is from.
That's true. That was great. And then, it started raining one day, and then
that's the best part. Yeah,
he said it didn't stop for like 3 months or something like that. And this is the part I quote all the time. He's like, it was raining sideways. There was even rain that came up from the ground. It was stinging rain, and it was
all fat rain.
Yeah, and it was a lot like Bubba listing all the different types of shrimp he knew. Forrest starts listing all the different types of rain he knew. But I will say there's a sweet moment of this where he said, then one day it stopped, and he said, and then he said, in between the combat, he looked up at the stars at night, and it was
gorgeous.
It was the most beautiful place he's ever been, and it makes me. It does make me reflect on even like World War II, like some of the places that our troops went, you know what I mean? Or any conflict, really. These places are all beautiful in their own right. And when they're not in a combat situation, it's like, when else would you be able to see these places? Like, whether it be the beaches of Normandy or the deserts of Afghanistan, these are physically beautiful places that are just so ugly because of the people that are
what's
there
going on
and the things that they're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I bet Vietnam is absolutely gorgeous. Environmentally, and then there would be no light pollution, if you will. So that was the part that really, I think of that sometimes when I look up at the night sky, or that quote, you know what I mean? That always stuck with me.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you brought that up.
Mm-hmm.
And then his Vietnam patch ends in a pretty shitty firefight where they're still on patrol, and they get obliterated, his unit. And during this firefight, Forrest listens to, Bubba says, Forrest, run. So Forrest takes off, and of course he's fast, and he realizes he's not near anybody in his unit. So he goes back, and he sees a bunch of injured guys that he starts hauling out of the jungle to the extraction point. And a couple of guys from the unit. Then it goes to, he grabs Lieutenant Dan, and then he lastly he's really trying to find Bubba, and he finds Bubba, and Bubba's obviously mortally injured. But he grabs him and he hauls him up, and he's like, and just like that, something jumped up and bit me in the buttocks. And then, it's Forrest describing how it feels to be shot.
Yeah, and he's running back through like gunfire and all this stuff. Like, it was super brave, other than he probably didn't realize the gravity of the situation. Not to take away from it, but yeah, so he brings Lieutenant Dan back. Yeah, he brings Bubba back, who's deceased, and Lieutenant Dan chastises him for it.
Yeah, Lieutenant Dan's pissed.
Because it turns out, and it shows a cool montage of like him in every uniform that there's been throughout the U.S. military history. Apparently, Lieutenant Dan has lost a family member in every U.S. conflict: the Revolutionary War, Civil War, World War I, II, Korea, etc. So he felt as though it was his destiny to die in battle to kind of fulfill that family legacy. And he lost his legs from some sort of explosive and was pissed at Forrest for saving him.
Yeah, very pissed.
He was yelling at him the entire time. He's like, God damn it, you put me down.
Yeah. And it's, he's just holding Bubba in his arms by the water, saying, he's like, if I'd have known this would be the last time I talked to Bubba, I thought I'd something better to say. And Bubba's like, Forrest, why'd this happen? And he's, I think Bubba's thinking about the entire war. Why am I dying for this? And Bubba's like, and Forrest is like, well, you got shot. So it's more of that innocence. It just carries throughout the movie, and that's a sad part. It's not the part where I cried.
Yeah, I think it was what you were talking about, but yeah, Forrest does say Bubba was supposed to be a shrimp boat captain, but instead he died right there next to that river. That's all I have to say about that, and that's just sad how it's like. Yeah, he sums it up as this meaningless thing, and in the end, that's exactly what it was. You know what I mean? And maybe Forrest understood it better than anybody else.
Thought. True, true. This is still military part. So at this point now, he and Lieutenant Dan are at the hospital, recovering from their wounds, and this is your famous ice cream bit. He's like, the best thing about being wounded in the buttocks is the ice cream.
Yeah, so poor Forrest, and I say poor Forrest because he obviously didn't understand what's going on. But yeah, he's put in like the ward with all of these people who are mortally wounded or at least really maimed. And here he is, he got shot in the ass and he's completely fine for the most part, right? And he gets put next to his buddy, Lieutenant Dan. And he's actually having the time of his life. He's eating all the ice cream. And here's Lieutenant Dan, who not only has lost his legs, but now has kind of like lost his will to live, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. He's pretty much thinks of it as Forrest didn't save his life. He ruined his death.
Yeah, and he even like crawls out of bed.
And grabs Forrest.
And tries to attack him. This scene, though, all I can focus on is the CGI legs.
Oh yeah, because they use green screen for his real legs.
Yeah, they wrapped him in like a cloth,
blue cloth.
Edited it out, but you could clearly tell that he was using his legs to prop himself up.
Yeah,
which I know it's difficult to pretend you don't have legs, but I feel like I would have reshot that scene. Because it's like
maybe budgetary constraints.
Yeah, and they might have shot it like a million times too. And this was 1994, so they didn't have like at their fingertips the kind of stuff that we have now. So they might have tried for it. And to be fair, I didn't notice it the first time, but now on rewatches, that's like all I focus on is like you can see his legs there, you can see his legs like every time going forward. But yeah, so Lieutenant Dan is still upset with Forrest, and as half a person is able to like drag him onto the floor and yell at him and about how, like you said, he ruined his death.
Yep. But, the other significant part about the hospital is Forrest picks up the game of table ping pong.
And Forrest being Forrest, they said, the trick to this game is to just not take your eye off the ball. And he took that literally. So every scene that he's playing ping pong, Tom Hanks does not blink.
Nope, absolutely.
Yeah, he keeps his eyes peeled open.
So while they're in the hospital and Forrest is ping-ponging it up, he's awarded the Medal of Honor. So he goes to tell Lieutenant Dan about this, and he finds he's not there, and the nurse says, yeah, he's gone home. So
this is the same scene too, where he gets all of the letters he sent to Jenny, right?
Yeah. So the letters he sent in Vietnam were returned to sender.
Yeah, he sent her a letter every single day or something like that.
Yeah,
he got a stack of return to senders. So this was a tough moment for him. Lieutenant Dan was taken somewhere else, and then he got all the letters.
He goes to D.C. to receive his Medal of Honor from President.
Was this Lyndon Johnson, or was this?
Yes. This was Lyndon Johnson. And this is where he goes, I understand you were wounded. He's like, where were you hit? He goes, in the buttocks. And he goes, well, I'd like to see that. And Forrest just kind of looks at him. He turns around, he pulls his pants down and moons the president because he took it literally.
Awesome. And I will say, especially for 1994, I didn't talk about it during the JFK scenes, but that was obviously real footage of JFK.
Right, they superimposed Forrest into it.
Yeah, they superimposed him into it. They, I think, slightly manipulated the lips to match what was going on, and then obviously they created different dialogue by just having somebody who was good at impressions. But this was 1994. That was super fucking impressive. It looks really good. Kind of like later on when John on a talk show with Forrest, they're actually using lyrics from a song that Lennon is speaking. I'm sorry, Lennon sings,
right,
and superimpose it into him sitting there
going to
talking
China.
to him. Yep. And it's like, holy shit. Like,
it's pretty cool.
This was 1994. You know what I mean? Like, Adobe Suite did not exist back then. Like, that's,
yeah, no, absolutely.
That's really good. Like, I can't imagine how much it costs to do that, but they did a really good job on it. And I think it holds up in 2020.
Agreed. And then he leaves. He goes to the Johnny Carson show. No, wait. This is prior to that. He's in D.C. after he got his Medal of Honor, and he's out taking pictures. You know, Mama was tired; she went to bed. So he's out taking pictures of the Capitol, and there's this. This is the day of the huge peace rally when they're at the reflection pool, and this woman kind of gathers him, and he's in his full class A's with his Medal of Honor around his neck, and he gets put into this queue that's going up on stage. He's like, there's this guy like having this really huge speech, and he's really into it, and he's like, I'm gonna bring up some veterans, and they're gonna tell you how to stick it to this effing war. And Forrest gets pushed into this line, and it's just more that I think you alluded to this earlier. It's just more of his innocence, and he goes with the flow with where he is. He doesn't truly understand the environment around him, and he gets up there, and it's funny because somebody unplugs, so you never hear what really Forrest has to say.
Yeah, somebody that's obviously pro-military because they were wearing a uniform. I think
they were.
Yeah, so they start just unplugging the microphone cords and stuff like that. And this is Forrest, who is, now a decorated veteran that's in a very, if you will, hostile environment full of hippies and anti-war people. But he doesn't know that or understand that. He's just up to say what he's going to say. Do you know what he actually said?
I do.
Okay, because it was in the trivia, if you want to go ahead. Because I couldn't hear him from the actual movie, but I read it in the trivia.
Yeah, it was basically, well, in Vietnam, you had men who would go over there, lose their legs, and not go back to their mama that way, or they wouldn't go back to their mama at all. And he's like, and that's all I have to say about that. That's pretty much the gist of what he said to this crowd, which kind of falls in alignment with what they're saying. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. Because that's the thing is the Vietnam War. It is just so sad from our people's perspective. Like, obviously it's sad from the indigenous personnel's perspective as well, but this wasn't World War II where we were fighting tyranny, oppression, and genocide. This was like, why were we over there? He summed that up pretty well. You know what I mean? I think without making this a political debate. Right.
And I won't debate with you. I mean, at the end of the day, why kill somebody else anyways, period. Yeah. It doesn't matter the situation. What's the need? We can harmoniously get along in some fashion. So I wouldn't disagree with you, but it's hard because my dad's a Vietnam vet. So I think the American people mistreated the way these guys came back. A lot of them weren't
big time.
They weren't volunteered. They were forced to go over and protect their country. So I just, that part of it doesn't sit well with me because you have a lot of, that'll be too political. I won't bring it up, but you have a lot of.
And I agree with you. That's why I hate hippies.
I figured as much.
I support the troops, but my point is, why did we send the troops over there in the first place?
Agreed.
Regardless of where we ask the men and women of our military to go and what we ask them to do, I'm behind them. But I think we should be more responsible with how we utilize them. And in that sense, Vietnam was pointless in how we utilize them.
Yeah,
but what they did, not the sacrifices that they made.
Right. Because I think if a lot of guys who heard, who were there and who felt the loss, or people, in the echoes of loss, heard that it was pointless, probably would take that kind of out of heart, that my dad, my husband's life wasn't worthless. So, we agree. It's just it's a tough thing because any war is. But I think we're getting too deep on it. So
yeah, a little bit. But yeah, that's my point. Is it just didn't make the country better at the end of the day? You know what I mean? If anything, it hurt our country. Yeah, but the only other thing during this era of the movie was, didn't he stumble on the Watergate scandal?
Yeah, but he also bumped back into Lieutenant Dan too.
No, that's right. Oh well, and we forgot Jenny. We did get a little sidetracked because as Forrest was
giving a speech, and the guy's like, "Yeah, go ahead." He's like, "What's your name?"
Yeah, he's like, my name Forrest Gump. And then, of course, Jenny is a part of the crowd. And so she comes yelling, Forrest! And it's quiet enough that he can hear her.
Yeah, with thousands of people by the reflection pool.
Again, artistic license. But yeah, so he comes, she comes running through the reflection pool, that is. And he goes and meets her there. And
pretty big scene. Big scene.
And they embrace and everything.
Yep. Crowd goes ape shit.
Yep.
And then Forrest goes on this whole national tour for the military on a ping pong tournament into China. Yeah. Upon his return, he gets on the Johnny Carson show and is sitting next to Lennon, and it's just funny. He's like, well, tell me about China. He's like, well, in China, they don't have much in their houses. He's like, no possessions. Mm-hmm. And, so it's obviously that Forrest is helping John Lennon create his Imagine song. So I think that's funny that Forrest is so influential in so many things in our lives. Upon leaving the studio, he bumps into Lieutenant Dan out back, and he's like, Lieutenant Dan's even more pissed. Not only did you ruin my death, they gave you the Congressional Medal of Honor. Yeah. And Lieutenant Dan is obviously suffering from alcoholism. He's in a wheelchair. He's in New York City. He's having a tough time. So Forrest stays with him, and there's a little exchange with them in his apartment where he's. Lieutenant Dan's trying to find a bottle anywhere in his apartment that has some shred of alcohol so he can have it. And he's just throwing empty bottles everywhere. And he's like, they have a talk about God. Lieutenant Dan's like, well, before you go to heaven, go down to the package store and get me some more booze. He's like, yes, sir. And he gets out and he leaves.
Yeah, this is like a New Year's Eve celebration, right?
Yeah. Oh, with the two girls. Oh, yeah, this is a tough scene.
Yeah, and so Forrest and Lieutenant Dan pick up these two
regulars. We call them regulars.
Yeah, I don't even know what to call them, but yeah, they bring them back to Lieutenant Dan's place, and I quote this one all the time because I'll just kiss Heather some nights and just be like, "You taste like cigarettes."
You do that? That's terrible.
And she doesn't smoke, obviously. I'm only quoting this movie, but because Forrest says that to one of the girls when she kisses.
She like launches on him like a leech.
Yeah, and he's like, "You taste like cigarettes," which is how I picture somebody special just responding to that situation, like captioning the obvious, right? But
it obviously ruins the night because one of the girl that's on top of Lieutenant Dan says, "What is your friend, stupid or something?" And Lieutenant Dan is pissed about somebody calling him.
Yeah, he does defend Forrest and goes after him, and then they laugh at him for being a cripple,
falling out of the chair.
Yeah, and the two girls storm off.
Yeah, it's terrible, and he's like, "I'm sorry, I ruined your party, Lieutenant Dan."
When's the Watergate thing? Is this around the same time? This is the only part of the movie that's a little fuzzy to me, is chronologically.
So the Johnny, right after that, he's back on the bench talking to the heavier set fella, and he's like, and then because of the ping pong tournament in China, he gets an award from the president. He's like, I had to meet the president again. Yeah, this time it's Nixon. Yeah, and this time it's Nixon, and Nixon's like, I understand you're staying at Harvey's Lake and you're staying in the nation's capital. And he's like, I'm staying at this place. He goes, oh no, I know a better place. It's brand new, really posh. So Forrest is in his room, and he's like, he calls the hotel operator. He's like, oh, the power might be out in the apartment over there because all these lights flashing, looking for the fuse box. It's keeping me up. So it indicates that Forrest busted out Watergate.
Yeah. I think they're looking for a fuse box because they got flashlights everywhere. Yeah, it's what was that? The Republican National Convention that was spying on the Democratic National Convention.
I believe like so.
That. Yeah, so that's how the Watergate scandal started, is because Forrest dropped a dime. I don't know who he called, the power company.
He called the hotel operator. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they called law enforcement, like, obviously, artistic license. But it's just funny that that's what they were insinuating, is that Forrest was responsible for that.
And then he gets discharged from the Army. That's the very last bit of his military career. So, he goes home. He goes straight over to Bubba's, or no, he shows up and his mom's like, hey, this paddle company will give you $25,000 if you say you like using their paddles. He's like, Mama, I don't use their paddles. Yeah. So he does it anyway. He gets $25,000.
That's a little white lie.
but that won't hurt nobody.
Yeah.
So he uses this $25K to buy a shrimping boat, and he tells Bubba's wife that's what he's going to do. And she's like, are you crazy? It was you stupid. And he's like, stupid is as stupid does, ma'am. So he's standing at Bubba's grave and he's saying, well, I used that $24,962 to buy a shrimp boat. That's minus the bus ticket and getting a haircut and a suit and bringing mama to dinner. He buys a shrimp boat. The guy, it's so funny because after the Bubba's wife says to him, the guy he buys the boat from goes, son, you stupid or something? He's like, stupid is as stupid does, sir. So he says that twice in within a 5-minute span. But he gets a shrimp boat and he's not very good. He's catching metal and
license plate tire.
Yep. Yep. And the guy says to him that sold him the boat, he's like, you ever think about naming your boat? Because it's unlucky to have a boat with no name. And Forrest is like, oh. So what do you think he names it?
Yeah, Jenny.
Yep, Jenny. He sure does. So Bubba, not Bubba. Duh, he's dead. Too soon. So Forrest is floating down a tribute. Is it a tributary that feeds into the ocean?
Something like that.
Yeah, so he's floating down the river. Well, that's easier.
Yeah, I would have called it a river, so I was giving you bonus points for trying something else.
And he sees this person on a dock, and he looks a little bit harder, and it's Lieutenant Dan in the wheelchair, and Forrest is just beside himself, excited. He lets go of the helm. He looks over, and he gives this big goofy wave, and then fucking dives off the boat to Lieutenant Dan's pier.
Yeah, he jumps and waves at the same time.
And the fucking boat is nobody's on it now, and it's just steaming down. Not steaming, obviously, but. And he gets up. He goes, Lieutenant Dan, what are you doing here? And he's like, well, I thought I'd try out my sea legs. He goes, you ain't got legs, Lieutenant Dan.
Yeah. I know that, Forrest. And then the boat crashes into the dock like behind him because Forrest jumped off it with nobody at the controls.
Yeah, he's like, well, that's my boat.
Yes. So, yeah, he recruits Lieutenant Dan to be on the boat with him. And then I just remember it was like a hurricane or some sort of weather comes and wipes out every single boat except for Forrest and Lieutenant Dan. So now they start catching all of the shrimp and make a boatload of money. No pun intended.
For sure. And
shrimp load of money.
Yeah. And thus is created the Bubba Gump Shrimp Company. And did you know that prior to this movie, Bubba Gump Shrimp did not exist?
No, I've seen T-shirts of it, but I knew that was in reference to this movie. Is it like an actual restaurant or something?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've been to it.
No.
Yeah.
Is it a chain or is it a single location?
It is. No, there are even in multiple countries.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've never been to it, but that's funny.
And guess who's behind the helm of that fucking adventure? It's not an actor or an actress. It's Viacom, the company that made this movie.
Yeah.
They own Paramount. They created this restaurant, and they own them all.
Oh, interesting.
Motherfucking double-dipping sons of bitches. I think a significant scene here, it's obvious that Bubba and Lieutenant Dan are connecting on a better level now. And there's a part here where Lieutenant Dan's on the boat and he's looking over at Forrest and he goes, Forrest, I never told you I thanked you for saving me. Just looks at him, and that was it for the exchange. And when I initially saw this movie, Lieutenant Dan kind of lifts himself up out of his wheelchair and throws himself off the boat. And I'm like, oh my God, he's fucking committing suicide. And no, he's just going for a swim, but he narrates, he says, I think he made his peace with God. That's like a turning point in the movie for me, not for me, for Lieutenant Dan, to realize that, hey, I owe this guy everything. You know what I mean? And that maybe it wasn't my destiny to croak on that river. So very, very good part. They're on the boat too, and they get a phone call, or not a phone call, it's a radio signal, and Forrest's mom is sick. So Forrest just steps up and jumps off the boat and swims away. Yeah. But this is the part of the movie where Forrest's mom, she's an old biddy, so she's getting ready to head up to the kingdom, and she dies. Every death that is closely related to Forrest in this movie, they're focused on him. Like, he's with them each time that they die, but it's showing just him. It doesn't show the death of the person. And I just realized that right now, because it says, he narrates it, and Mama got the cancer and died on a Tuesday. Yep. And he's like, I wore her best dress, and it's interesting to see the way that and again, it's obviously acting, but it's interesting to see the way that they portray somebody with this kind of emotional incapacity, how they respond to this, because he knows something, he knows it's not good, and he knows it hurts, because you can tell that because of the way Tom is acting, but it doesn't affect him like you and me.
Like he doesn't cry or anything like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Doesn't go psycho, that kind of thing. So it's interesting. This is about the time Forrest realized how much money he has. They have Bubba Gump's blowing up. There's like 13 boats. So he gives Bubba's wife half Bubba's share like he promised. And he has a church rebuilt that he goes to, and he's getting to a hospital.
And he's the only white guy in the church, which I love.
And honestly, guy, on a side note, when I lived down south, my boys were really one of maybe 5 white kids in the school. So it's such a far cry difference between New England and down south. And it was funny because I just remember Brian saying to me there were two Dans or Johns in his classroom, and the way he'd differentiate to me, he would tell me about his day. He's like, John did this today. It was really funny. I said, oh, okay. And he goes like, it was the brown John, not the white one. You know. So it was interesting and I'm glad my kids got to experience that, because it's very different being up here in New England versus down south. I mean, I say different because there was one girl, African-American girl or black girl that I grew up with, but vice versa, it's down there. So it's just a different side of the penny.
Totally different. But it was just funny because he just looked so goofy in the very gospel choir, just singing along as the token white guy in this case.
For sure.
And this is the part too where he gets he's like, he had some money to burn, so his financial advisor and recommended he invest in this company called Apple. He's like, I think they sold fruit or something. He's like, and his stock, quadrupled.
Just went crazy.
Yeah.
He's like, well, and he's been cutting the grass for the college. And he's like, well, since I was a gozillionaire, I just cut that grass for free.
Yeah, I just liked it. Yeah, yep. And you can so picture that. Like, money is not an object to him. He doesn't
exactly.
He doesn't appreciate it or need it. He just wants the necessities like clothes on his back and food in his belly. And
so let me ask you this then. This might be going deep for the podcast, but so who's the real dummy then? And I use dummy very loosely. Are we, meaning you and I, with our emotional aptitude and our ability to be in society, are we the dummies, or is somebody like Forrest the dummy?
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, right?
Because we are so concerned about things that are non-essential. Are we really? We're stupid, really?
Yeah. Or it just reminds me of the like eccentric billionaire. There's these people who dress to impress or something like that because they're on the cusp of really being somebody. But the people like Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos, they're like, I have nothing to prove to anybody, so I'm more than happy to show up to this stuffed shirt event wearing shorts and flip-flops. You know what I mean? Because who are they? They're the richest people in the world. Like, they have nobody to impress when it comes to wealth. You know what I mean? So that's what it kind of reminds me of, is it's just like, I don't care. But I get what you're saying, like material possessions and things like that.
Yeah, I almost think we're a little bit more slave to the man.
Yeah, so. I mean, in on the heels of Into the Wild, where he was against those things, but from, I don't know, and this is getting deep, but from a sociology perspective, it's like we all know the game that we're playing. Chris McCandless didn't want to play that game, and Forrest Gump doesn't understand the rules to the game, if you will. That's how I look at it.
All right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like we all know.
Or he doesn't understand that it's a game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Chris was like, I'm not willing to play. Forrest is like, we're playing a game.
And that's what I mean. What does that make us? I'd rather be one of them.
Yeah. Well, I mean? Yeah. But, easier said than done when you're
This is true. So in the midst of this, I know Jenny comes back. There's a whole bit where Forrest is in his mom's house after she dies, and he steps out onto this terrace outside the upstairs bedroom, and he sees a ghost of Jenny walking down the road underneath the magnolias that you like, kind of coming towards the house. And then she fades away, and he's like, I miss Jenny. And then, but she finally shows up, and from seeing her recently in the movie to now, it's obvious that she's off the drugs. She's not getting beat by guys anymore, because she usually had black eyes when they referenced her.
Oh, yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. The only part that we really missed that I wanted to talk about from the past was
the apartment patio.
Well, that too, actually. But after Forrest came home from Vietnam, because he was still in uniform, Jenny was dating some sort of douchebag who
we totally skipped that.
I know, who Forrest followed them to this party, and it ended up being a Black Panther party, which was like a very aggressive, almost militaristic black. It's kind of like the Black Lives Matter back in the 70s and 60s, other than even more like militaristic.
Yeah, a more raw version.
More anti-government, anti-establishment. And so Forrest shows up, and it's literally a bunch of black guys and gals. Jenny, her boyfriend, who is white, and Forrest. And Jenny and her boyfriend get in an argument. He slaps her, and Forrest just goes after the guy.
And he's in his army uniform,
and just beating the shit out of him. And so the guys throw him out of the party and everything. And he goes, sorry for ruining a Black Panther party. And he just doesn't understand the racial implications behind it at all. But at the same time, the only guy in that room that he attacked was the only other white guy. You know what I mean? Forrest doesn't understand the racial interaction to have hate in his heart. He only disliked this guy because of the way he treated Jenny. That was it. That was all he cared about. Yeah,
and I mean, these guys, they were heavily armed at this party.
Yeah, they're showing guns.
And so he gets up after he's beating the snot out of this guy, and he's like, fixes his shirt, and he goes, I'm sorry I had a fight in the middle of your Black Panther party.
Where they're all like getting ready to kill him, and he just doesn't understand he's in any sort of danger.
Yeah.
And then, the balcony scene that you were talking about.
I forgot about that one too.
Yeah, it's playing Freebird. Here's a question for you. This might be a little off topic. School dances at your school. Last song. Stairway to Heaven or Freebird?
Stairway to Heaven.
My school too. We were Stairway to Heaven.
Absolutely.
But the rival school next door was Freebird, and it was like, you look down your nose at that school. You're like, gross. Playing Freebird instead of Stairway to Heaven. What's wrong with you? But anyway, so it starts playing Lynyrd Skynyrd's Freebird, and Jenny is high on. I can't remember. Did she shoot up on? She
was doing blow, but she was the guy she was with was shooting heroin. So it pretty much bounces back and forth between there's a couple snippets of Jenny and her life as Forrest lives out his, and it's obvious that she's just with hippies, she's doing drugs, she's all this kind of things, and she's being beaten by all these guys because she's always got a black eye.
Right.
And so this very last point, she gets off the bed and goes over to the balcony outside, and she stands up on the balcony sort of like she did on the bridge with Forrest, and was like, gave this inclination that she wanted to jump, but she steps off and is like freaked out by her own thoughts. So those are two pretty good scenes that I completely forgot about.
Yeah, me too. We got a little sidetracked there, but so that was like 20 minutes ago in the movie, but that's okay. But yeah, so when Tim says, compared to the last time on the balcony, that's what you were talking about.
Right. So Jenny shows up, and Forrest is like, well, I don't know why Jenny come back. Maybe she's tired because she was in bed a lot or whatnot. So I think this is when she's cleansing her body of all these drugs and getting, back on the track of normalcy. But I do remember that this is when Forrest seals the deal. He says they're watching like New Year's Eve or something, or July 4th. Fireworks on TV, and after she's been there for several weeks, and he's like, Jenny, will you marry me? And she's like, and she didn't answer, and he goes, well, I may not be a smart man, but I know what love is. And he walks off from her. Yeah. And she obviously feels bad, so she comes to his crib in the middle of the night and bones him. And that's a 30-year fish for you there, Forrest. Reel that bad boy in slow.
A long con.
Yeah, he reeled that bad boy in slow.
Yeah.
But the next morning, Jenny.
That way you don't spoil the mate.
Yeah.
Buy it too much, you spoil the mate.
Yeah, you want a fresh fish.
I might have just thought it to a different level, but I've heard something like that. Like if like a deer gets gut shot or something like that, it gets scared and it releases all this epi into its meat, and then it makes makes the meat nasty. So that's why you need.
Never heard of that.
Not because it's the humane thing to do, but because it spoils the meat.
It's a tastier thing to do.
Yeah.
So the very next morning, in typical Jenny style, she fucking bolts. She takes off while Forrest is asleep, gets in a cab, and leaves. I hate her. I hate her at this point of the movie.
At this point, she's a bad person throughout the entire movie.
Well, I mean,
other than
but at this point, it was like you came here to get clean. You're clean now, and Forrest has expressed himself to you finally, and you bone him and take off. Yeah. Really?
And the really sad part is this is a very realistic character from my understanding of psychology and human behavior, which obviously I'm not versed in that, other than listening to a decade plus of, or probably 2 decades now of Loveline, listening to Dr. Drew. So somebody like this is afraid of intimacy and is only, attracted to unavailable people who treat her poorly because of her childhood. So that's the part that is this is a real person. Like, I know this is a character, but there are people out there who treat themselves that way, and then people who are nice to them that way because of what happened to them. And it's just it just makes your skin like. It's not right. No.
And that's where that's where it frustrates me.
But so as much as I hate her too, it's a very plausible character, which
absolutely,
is what's devastating about it. You know what I mean?
Right. Because that character exists fold over in our society. So Forrest realizes she's gone, and he's sitting on the porch, and he just decides to go for a run. And boy, does Forrest run! Yeah, this is actually on my bucket list. I know I'll never do it, so that's why it's probably number 1. I would love to run from the East Coast to the West Coast. That would be so awesome.
I could see drive or fly, but run? Like, what's wrong with you?
I don't know. Because it's more an intimate way.
Or maybe walk, but run?
That would take a lifetime to walk that.
I know, but running sucks. But anyways, this is up your alley.
So he runs across the United States, and while he's running, he's meeting these people that he's an inspiration to people, and these people are having a tough time in their life. And some follow him, and there are a couple that run alongside him for a little bit and ask him for help. And they're like, "Hey, I'm a shirt salesman, and I'm down on my luck. What do you suggest I do?" And at that point, a truck throws mud up on everybody, and Forrest uses a yellow shirt from the guy to wipe his face, and he's like, gives it back to him. He's like, "Well, have a nice day." And the guy opens the shirt. It's a smiley face. So have a nice day, smiley face. It's just more of the, hey, Forrest Gump is more into our society than you know.
And it's playing Fleetwood Mac's Go Your Own Way, which is one of my favorite songs of all time.
And Against the Wind, too.
No, that's true, but that's not as good.
No, I know.
No, I loved that song so much that my parents, this is a side story, my parents owned Fleetwood Mac's Greatest Hits growing up, and I wanted to listen to that song on repeat. Like, we'd be driving in the car, and I'd be like, play it again. And they'd be like, no, give me another song. But anyways, they own that CD. I loved that song so much that I insisted they buy me my own copy, and then they had to label which one was their copy and which one was my copy. And I still love that song. And then one day he just stopped.
Yeah, he stopped.
And all the people following him were like, he's going to speak, waiting for him to cite the gospel or something like that.
Yeah.
He turns around, he's like, think I'll go home now. They're like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? But
they're in the middle of the fucking desert.
But it's cool too, because I don't know if the movie was trying to dig this deep, but it does kind of remind me of these cult leaders or something like that, where these people are kind of lost and they just attach themselves to this person and this
thought.
Yeah, this bigger thought or this bigger vision, and then it just turns out that
it's nothing.
Right? You know what I mean?
I know, it's funny. It is funny.
I started this compound to bang a bunch of chicks, not to drink Kool-Aid and meet God. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's what Forrest was doing. It wasn't like this higher power. It was just like,
just wanted to run.
Yeah, he's like, I just wanted to run, and then I decided I was going to run to the town line, and then maybe the county line, and then the state line, and next thing you know, he's in Arizona, and then one day he's like, I think I'll go home now, and they're like, you know, it's like,
yeah. It's funny. It's funny.
It is. Like you said, I don't know if the movie's trying to be that deep, but I think that's pretty funny.
This is the point of the movie where now it's no longer told from a park bench, because this is where he's at the bus stop and he's telling this old woman about the letter he has from Jenny. And then he's like, I have to take the number 19 bus to Green Street, and then I got to go up 3 blocks to Smithsonian Street. And she's like, well, you don't got to take the bus nowhere. The Smithsonian is 3 blocks that way. And he's like, 3 blocks that way?
And so he's been sitting there for God knows how long, just talking strangers' ears off.
Yep. And so he fucking bolts.
But I do like, though, at the beginning of the movie, it starts with that young lady who's reading the magazine and is not interested in what he has to say at all.
To people that are enthralled. He ends up at Jenny's apartment. She has a son because a babysitter drops him off. And come to find out, it's Forrest's son. And I think this right here, this scene is Tom Hanks' best performance, because the way he acts, he's pretending to be a slow guy, and then a slow guy that has found out that he has a son he didn't know about. Holy shit, nobody's ever done this, you know. But he hits the shocked and scared and oh shit, what have I done wrong kind of thing all at the same time. It was just brilliant.
And then his first question
is he smart?
Yeah, or
is he smart, or is he dumb?
Or is he slow like me? And she goes, no, he's smart. He's so smart. And like, he's just blown away by that. Yep. Like, it's the best news he could ever hear.
Yeah, fantastic. Very an awesome scene.
And so he goes and watches cartoons with them.
Yeah. What are you watching?
And that was Haley Joel Osment, right?
Yes,
who ended up being like in The Sixth Sense, among other things. Yep. I don't think he's done much as an adult, but he was a huge child star.
Yeah, because I think Hollywood poisoned him. Because we know what Hollywood is for child stars. But anyways, they're sitting at the park, and Jenny says, Forrest, I'm sick. I've got the HIVs or the Hep C, you know.
Yeah, and AIDS, right?
It was either HIV or Hep. It had to be one of the two.
Well, I don't think they said, but yeah.
No, they didn't, but it had to be one of those two. Because the 80s, and the doctors don't know what it is or how to treat it. So it's HIVs or Hep or something. Yeah. And he's like, well, I'll take care of you. I'll take care of you. If you're sick, you and little Forrest, come and live with me. So that's what happens. She says, Forrest, will you marry me? Again, she only lets him marry when she knows that she's not going to be around much longer. Pisses me off. So they get married. Lieutenant Dan shows up. What's different about Lieutenant Dan? He shows up for the wedding.
He's got prosthetic legs, I believe, because he's on like crutches instead of being in a wheelchair, and he's got a date with him too.
It's his fiance. Yeah, he's got a walker. He's got titanium legs, and he's like, oh, magic legs. So it's just interesting that Forrest sees that it's opposite of his life, you know? So he marries Jenny.
Not white.
Yeah, she should have been in pink.
Black.
Or nothing in her case. So it's just like the scene where his mom dies. Forrest goes into the bedroom, and Jenny's on the same bed, same room as his mother, and they start talking, and Forrest is telling her about how beautiful it was in Vietnam, how beautiful it was when it was running, and he couldn't tell where the sky ended or where heaven ended and the world began. And I think this right here kind of clues you in. What he says to Jenny next really proved to me that he wasn't as slow as we thought he was. She goes, oh, I wish I was with you, Forrest, as she's looking out into the sky. And he goes, you were, you know. So it just proved that on an emotional level, he understands when another human being, that Jenny was with him, not physically, but emotionally, spiritually. So it just kind of brought full circle for what a freaking amazing dude Forrest Gump was. And then Jenny dies.
And then she finally dies, and he narrates whatever day of the week it was. And then he buries her under their tree, which we didn't mention earlier. There was a tree that they always went to as kids, but that's where he buried her. But I don't think that this is probably the scene where you cried. Maybe it is. But then it cuts to little Forrest Gump, because Jenny named him Forrest, is getting on the school bus for his first day. And it's the exact same situation as when Forrest was an adult. Like he introduces himself to the bus driver and is like, I'm Forrest Gump. And we ain't strangers no more. And then gets on the bus. Is that the scene, or is it when Jenny dies?
When he's talking to her at the grave underneath the tree. When he says, when he says, I miss you, Jenny, and he chokes up. Yeah, I lose. I thought I was going to lose it yesterday, because that's the moment I always lose it at, because you spend your life, your entire lifetime, and I wouldn't say pining, but caring so much about a particular person. And let's face it, you know your folks your entire life.
Sure.
And you know your brothers and your sisters, but their family, when you and it's almost a given that you're going to love them. Not all the time, but but if you give your love to a stranger and then that love continues for your lifetime, what a punch to the gut when that love dies. And that's
sorry, go ahead.
No, that's all right. And that's really what got me, is just I could feel that pain. Not that I ever want to. I want to die before my wife does, but not so she can feel the pain, but because I don't want to go through it.
I know that's one of the great things about being a guy. But yeah, and then just having children just changes you in general. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I've seen this movie 1,000 times and not even shed a tear.
So did you get choked up?
I haven't watched it since having kids.
You son of a bitch.
but I could only imagine, like talking at Heather's grave about how well the kids are doing now that I have kids. And like, I hear where you're coming from. It's and for people who don't have children, you just can't describe it, but
you don't know.
But it's completely different. It just changes you 100%. And even your relationship with, your wife, it changes you having children. And so, yeah, that's why I figured that was the case. But yeah, I have not watched this movie since
all the things in your life.
Okay. Yeah, which was over 2 years ago now, right? But that's how well I remember this movie, because it's that well structured and I've seen it that many times. Is there anything else? I think that's the end.
No, that was pretty much the end. I think the significance was calling back earlier to when Jenny and Forrest were at her house in the field praying that she was a bird and she'd fly away. After Forrest is done talking at her grave and saying, if you need anything, I won't be far away. And he walks away from the tree and a bunch of birds fly into the tree and are chirping like really loudly. And I think that's just calling back to, hey, Jenny's spirit is free now. So just another poignant moment in the movie, but that's pretty much the end of it. Forrest sits back down, and the feather that he kept initially from the scene that he put in his Curious George book. His son had the Curious George book in his bag, waiting for the school bus, and he opened it. He goes, "I know this book." Well, the feather fell out and was by his foot. So once the bus took off, the feather kicked up. And it ends just the same way the movie began, with the feather flying through the air. And that's the gist of it.
Yeah, we didn't get too comedic with this episode. We get pretty deep.
Yeah, but I tell you what, it's good. I think the listeners need to understand that we're not one faceted.
That's right. We're like onions. We have layers.
Yeah. Oh well. How about a parfait? How about a parfait? People love parfait. All right. So, your favorite scene or your favorite death?
Oh, jeez.
I'd hope it's a scene.
Yeah, you can't. When Mama died, that was
I liked it when Jenny croaked.
Yeah. No, so the favorite death was from when our first episode was Halloween. That's why it's favorite scene / favorite.
Yeah, but I thought I'd throw death in there as a funny.
No, that's pretty funny. My favorite scene, I did talk about it, I think would probably be the Vietnam montage. Well, from the start of Basic until
okay, all right. So that whole montage.
Yeah, meeting Bubba and just the interactions with the drill instructor, like, because you told me to, sir. Like, God damn, that's the best answer I've ever heard. That was probably my favorite part, but the whole movie is great. What about yourself?
Black Panther Party. Just the fact that he beat the piss out of somebody, it was great. It was great. I thought it was funny. What about, did you have somebody that wore an outfit that you thought was your favorite? This was easy for me while you think it through. Forrest Gump in his Class A's wearing his Medal of Honor ribbon. Can't beat that. There's nothing better than a Class A uniform. Particularly the Marines. There's the best looking.
Yeah, I did read in the trivia that every time Forrest aged, like going from childhood to teenager, from teenager to college to adult, he was wearing that blue and white checkered shirt. But yeah, the only thing I could think of when you said that, because I didn't take notes ahead of time, was either the uniform, the military uniform, or the Black Panther, because they were.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
They were leather clad head to toe, so that was pretty cool. But,
agreed.
Yeah, I like all the outfits. They were very period appropriate for where we were in the country. Like the hippies, as much as I don't like hippies, were wearing their hippie stuff, and it's pretty cool.
What about all right? Not a lot of girls to pick from in this flick. Best babe.
Slim pickings.
Yeah, for sure.
I haven't seen this movie in a couple years. It's got to be one of the chicks from the.
Oh, you son of a bitch! You take the brunette because I got the blonde.
All right, I was going to say I can't
because
remember, but it's got to be one of the chicks from the New Year's Eve party because Jenny is just
Jenny's attractive. She's attractive, but
she's pretty, but just so unlikable as a person or a character.
Agreed, and a little too skinny. She needs a little bit more meat on her bones for me.
Yeah, that's all the coke and the heroin. So
yeah, so
and the AIDS. That's
and the hips. Too soon, buddy. Too soon. All right. What do you think Rotten Tomatoes gave Forrest Gump?
Oh, it's got to be good.
I was pissed when I read this.
Oh, okay. So that would take it down.
Sorry, wait, rewind. I take those 10 seconds back.
Yeah, but I was going to say, my gut reaction was 85, and then I was like, oh, I'll be clever and say 94 because it came out in 94. But the fact that you were pissed, I'll stick in the 80s and say 85.
Not too bad.
Did you take a guess before you looked it up?
I did, and I wrote it down.
All right, what was your guess?
My guess was 91.
All right. And
it is 71.
Based on what?
Exactly. These are the same douchebags that washed Into the Wild.
I was just about to say that. I was like, yeah, but Into Wild, that fucking flaming turds are like 97%.
I know. Cynical assholes. Yeah, 71% is bullshit. This movie is one of the ones I could watch every year and not be bored by it.
Yeah, for sure. And it's almost like, obviously it's not super historically accurate because Forrest Gump is a fictional character and he didn't cause all these things. But it is like an interesting lesson in American history of just
and humanity.
Yeah, just how like these things are intertwined and everything like that. And it's kind of fun to think about one person could be involved with all of these.
And so much. Exactly. Yeah. And that's what and I know we both worked in more rural EMS systems, and that's what I really loved about picking up old people on EMS calls. And I feel bad saying old people, but because they've been through so much. I remember one woman had been through, obviously she probably don't remember it, but World War I, World War II, Vietnam, Korea, Cuban Missile Crisis, all this shit she'd been through, and she still had her marbles about her. And I'm just, that is a wealth, a well of information and just experience there. And people didn't tap into that enough. And the greatest generation, they're all going to be wiped out soon. And that's a fucking terrible thing.
Well, we're going to be the greatest generation. No, and I don't say that to dismiss what they did, but that like, this is going to be us 80 years from now. People are going to be like, our generation lived through the Berlin Wall, 9/11, the 2008 financial crisis, COVID. Like, people are going to be saying that we're the greatest generation 50 years from now when they don't even remember that generation.
Well, that's the problem. That's the problem. That should never be forgotten because we can't compare it to the greatest generation. There's no way.
I'm not saying that because obviously we weren't storming the beaches of Normandy or anything like that. But that's what I'm saying is that's
time. Yeah. Time.
It's you and I weren't alive for the events of Forrest Gump, right?
Correct.
It was before us, but yes, somebody could theoretically remake the story in another 30 years, going through all the stuff that we lived through of the 80s, 90s, 2000s, the aughts, the whatever you want.
Yeah, and the way it would. Go ahead.
Living through significant history, you know what I mean? You can hear
yeah, he's funny.
He's up from that.
yeah. So, all right.
So I'm not saying we are the greatest.
No. I know.
Or trying to take away from their accomplishments, but that's my whole point. Is it's a great snapshot in American history that you and I weren't a part of. And I think it's a cleverly written story that this fictional character could be
part of so much,
interwoven through so many significant moments. Like after he met JFK, right? It showed a footage of JFK being assassinated.
Well, it showed him in the car.
Right. Yeah. He's like, somebody didn't like that man. He went and shot that man.
Yeah. And then it showed his brother, and then he's like, it must be hard being brothers.
Yeah, exactly. It's all those things.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. Heather, would she watch it?
Yes, she has watched it. She does like this movie. And I believe she was the one who actually picked it out for my DVD collection on that.
Oh, good for her.
That date night, like I said.
You allowed Heather to pick out a movie for date night?
Yeah, of course.
On your second date?
Yeah, I think it was our second. It might have been our second or third, but it was, she came over to my place and was like, hey, we should watch a movie. And of course you let her pick.
There's that veil. There's that veil.
Nudge, wink, wink. I don't think we finished it.
Yeah, I bet. So anyway,
of course I let her pick because it's like I don't give a shit what we watch.
Jill likes this movie quite a bit too.
Holy shit! Is this the first? Is this the first since episode 1 that we found a movie that our wives like together? Either. Because I don't think my wife has liked a single movie. No, she hasn't. She either hasn't seen it or hasn't liked it.
Again, what genre is it?
Yeah, it's drama.
There you go, bro.
But Halloween, neither of them liked.
That was horror.
But Top Gun, neither of them liked.
Okay, that's
7. Neither of them have seen. Epic Movie, neither of them had seen. John Wick, neither of them had seen.
Okay, all right, yeah. So maybe this is the first one.
Into the Wild, neither of them had seen. Forrest Gump, both of them had seen and liked.
All right, yeah, this is the first one.
This movie needs a ribbon. Maybe we can contact Hollywood and ask that
Let's ask Tom Hanks.
Yeah, Tom, we'd like to present you with an award. Heather
Worm's Eye View.
Yeah, Heather and Jill both have seen and like your particular film. And holy shit, let me put that Oscar in the garbage to make room for this award.
And the sad thing is neither one of our wives will hear what we just said.
No, but we do plan on doing an episode where we have them on as guests when we get to the bottom of the Serpentine. And we plan on, they won't know this ahead of time, but we'll put them on the spot. You better
cut this out.
No. They won't hear it, bro.
Oh, true.
We plan on putting them on the spot at the beginning of the episode and going, hey, what's your favorite episode? And just enjoying the awkward pause or awkward stare. Can you name a movie name 3 movies we've reviewed? Like Top Gun. Top Gun. It will be embarrassing.
It's going to be funny.
Humiliating / hilarious.
Agreed. Hey, who would you be and why? Who would you be and why? I'll go first.
Please.
Bubba. I'd be Bubba because I know everything there is to know about the shrimping business.
Yes, no. What is there everything that you have to know about?
No, so I don't know shit about shrimp. I just feel that I would be more of a supportive person in Forrest Gump's life. There's no way I could be a Forrest Gump. He just is too good of a dude. I can't. That's unattainable to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was. It was funny. I was between Bubba and Lieutenant Dan, but I was.
I see you as Lieutenant Dan. Hell yeah, dude.
Well, and that's the thing is I was leaning a little bit more Lieutenant Dan just because
The white?
Well, and I don't think I'm a Bubba, you know what I mean? I don't know. I could see myself as a Lieutenant Dan, like coming home with some sort of survivor's guilt or something like that, and not knowing what my purpose was, or something like that. Not because he's an asshole to Forrest.
That's pretty deep for yourself. That's pretty deep.
But yeah, not because he's an asshole for Forrest. But I agree with you that I am not a Forrest. I think that character is above me.
Yeah,
and because he just doesn't know any better, or we talked about he doesn't understand that he's playing a game, let alone the rules of it. But yeah, I don't see myself as a Bubba, but it was a toss up between Bubba and Lieutenant Dan.
You're still Lieutenant Dan. That's it for our superlatives.
All right, we got spin for our next episode though.
Oh, son of a bitch! All right,
prepared are you?
I get this.
It's funny too. Tim told me I can see him because we're doing this this episode on WebEx, because hopefully this will be our last WebEx.
No, because F Zoom in the mouth. Zoom sucks buttholes.
Yeah, Tim is reporting Zoom to the Better Business Bureau because of some payment issues he's had with them. But I just don't want to do any more episodes.
I don't either.
Not in the flesh, like, you know. And if we get the COVIDs, I feel like this is line of duty of But yeah, so hopefully this is our last one. But yeah, Tim has told me that he wears Hawaiian shirts a lot. And
you like this? This is one of my worst ones.
Well, the funny thing is I just couldn't picture it because I've never seen you in one. I've only ever seen you in a T-shirt or in the department uniform that you change into. But Tim is rocking a Hawaiian
uniform. This is what you fight with Hawaiian. This is what you get. This Hawaii GI issue.
Yeah, and they throw a pineapple at you. But,
take this, motherfucker!
Yeah, Tim is rocking a Hawaiian shirt that it's blue. It's got some palm trees. It's got some waves and
surfboards.
Couple surfboards on it.
I love it. I was wondering how long it would take.
No, I noticed it immediately. It's just now I commented on it. But yeah, I thought Tim was maybe full of shit when he told me he owned several Hawaiian shirts.
Hold on. Go ahead, keep talking.
I will. So Tim and I were going through, I was telling him there was a show back in the day called Undateable on VH1. That one's just Hawaiian boys. And it was all the things men do or are.
Oh, no, you're not bringing this up.
No. That makes them undateable. And there was 100 things. And I read the list to Tim, and we would raise our hands whenever we were guilty of such offense. Oh, boy. So there's is that a ukulele? Is that only 4 strings?
Ukulele.
Tim just busted out another one that's nothing but ukuleles and pineapples, I think.
Yep, ukuleles and pineapples.
Wow. That one's cabins and islands. So we're up to 4. That means.
Sorry.
The movie review.
Continue your story.
No, do you have any more?
Yeah, I do.
I'm reviewing Tim's
Dude, I got you. Dude, come on. Have you ever worn one of these bad Larrys? Probably not, right?
In all honesty, I had Hawaiian shirts in middle school, but got rid of them in high school because the reputation is that they're like for old men.
Exactly. I'm fine with that because I am old. I'm very close to 50. But these are the most comfortable. I know, but these are so comfortable. It's not even funny.
They do look it, and I'm not judging. But yeah. So, anyways, one of them, one of the things on Undateable was wearing Hawaiian shirts, and Tim raised his hand, and I just looked at him, and I was like, what? And he goes, oh, yeah, I have a shit ton of Hawaiian shirts. And I'm like, I have never seen you in one ever. And he's like, oh, yeah. So it was one of those that I was like, I can't tell if Tim's fucking with me or if he's serious. But it's just, it kind of fell out of my head as quickly as it entered it. Other than when he booted up this video call, it immediately came back to me like Jenny getting diddled by her Tim.
Oh, come on. No.
I was like, oh my God, I started shaking. And I'm like, I had a flashback, man. I was like, I remember Tim telling me he owns a lot of Hawaiian shirts.
Fuck you. I don't diddle anything.
No, but except for my brain with your Hawaiian shirt. So that was a 10-minute diatribe on Hawaiian shirts. But yeah, in awesome. That time, did you have time to get ready for spinning of the next episode?
Shit, no. Because I was too busy defending myself.
You weren't defending yourself.
All right, hold on.
In your own grave.
You're right.
And be like, this is the only one. You modeled them for me.
All right, wait. So Thatcher, I'm not going to call you Thatcher anymore. That's goofy. Cappy. So Cappy, get ready. 1 through 6. Spin it.
Oh my goodness, would you look at this?
Comedy.
All right. We got a comedy.
What an enormous spin.
Let's see what number 8 is.
Three Amigos.
Oh, hell yeah. Have you seen that?
I have never seen this movie. I think this is what, Chevy Chase, Western, right?
Yeah, well, sort of. I guess you could call it a Western.
Is this the one that also has Gene Wilder in it?
No, Martin Short.
Okay.
Chevy Chase. And who was in Roxanne?
I was thinking of Blazing
Steve
Saddles.
Martin.
I was thinking of Blazing Saddles. All right. Yeah, I've never seen this movie.
Oh, it's funny. It's funny. In fact, this is a quotable movie. In fact, my sons and I I'm so proud. My kids are so versed that they even can quote Three Amigos with me.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. It's stupid humor. You'll like it.
Nice. All right, guys. So we'll be doing Three Amigos, which is an 80s comedy for our next episode. As always, please let us know not only what you thought of the episode itself, but as you probably picked up, we did a little bit different format. Do you like this, or do you want us to go back to taking detailed notes and actually going through the episode moment by moment, or just our best recollection of the moments? So we are on Facebook, Instagram, and the Twitters.
Yeah, hit us up. Hit us up, please. We wanna keep our content going for you and get it better. So to all our friends, fans, and listeners, I say vaya con Dios.
Bispeta.